Hi, it's me. And today I will tell you about Julius Caesar, one of the greatest leaders of all time. Let's get started. Part 1. His unstoppable drive for success. Caesar was born in 100 BC into an old patrician family which had fallen on hard times. He was not related to Marius or Sulla, two of the most famous generals of the late Republic. But while they were away, fighting wars, Caesar learned how to manipulate the Roman political system to his own advantage. He rose through the ranks quickly, and by the age of 35, he was appointed to the consulship, the highest position in the Roman government. During his term in office, he enacted several reforms that helped to alleviate poverty in Rome, such as the Lex Julia de Adulteriis Coercivus, which punished adulterers with a fine. He also introduced the Julian calendar, which was more accurate than the existing calendars. Caesar was so popular that he was elected consul for a second term in 64 BC. However, he had to share power with another consul, Crassus. This arrangement did not work out well because Crassus was corrupt and selfish. So Caesar decided to switch parties and form a new alliance with Pompey and Marcus Licinius Crassus. This alliance was called the First Triumvirate. The three triumvirs controlled most of the provinces and legions of Rome. They used their power to enrich themselves and their families and to pursue their own interests. For example, Caesar annexed Gaul and made it part of Rome. He also conquered Pontus and defeated the forces of Mithridates VI. After 8 years, when Crassus died, the First Triumvirate collapsed and Caesar had to fight a civil war against Pompey. Caesar was victorious and became dictator of Rome. He held this absolute power for 5 years until he was assassinated by a group of senators led by Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus. Despite his short tenure as dictator, Caesar left a lasting legacy on Rome. He reformed the calendar, reorganized the army, built new roads and aqueducts, and made many public works projects. He was also very generous to the people of Rome, giving them free grain, entertainment, and other benefits. In fact, Caesar was so loved by the common folk that they called him the new Romulus, because he was like the legendary founder of Rome who had established the city on the Tiber River and made it great. When Caesar was assassinated, there was chaos and instability in Rome. His adopted son Octavian, who later became known as Augustus, defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, who were Caesar's other heirs. Augustus was the first emperor of Rome, and he ushered in a golden age of peace and prosperity that lasted for 2 centuries. Without Caesar's reforms and conquests, Rome might not have been able to enter into the imperial era so smoothly. That is why Caesar is considered to be the father of the Roman Empire. So what made Caesar such a successful leader? There are many factors that contributed to Caesar's success. First of all, he was ambitious and determined. He wanted more power and glory for himself and for Rome. He was not satisfied with the status quo. He always wanted to improve or change things. For example, he reformed the calendar because he thought the old one was inaccurate and inconvenient. He reorganized the army because he thought it needed to be more efficient and effective. He built new roads and aqueducts because he thought they would benefit the people of Rome. He was also very energetic and enthusiastic. He did not let obstacles or setbacks discourage him. He always found ways to overcome them and achieve his goals. For example, when he was young and had little power, he used his intelligence and charisma to gain influence over the Roman elites. When he was older and had more power, he used his legions and resources to expand Rome's territory and wealth. Another thing that made Caesar successful was his ability to connect with the people. He was very popular among the common folk because he was humble and generous. He did not forget where he came from, and he did not exploit the people for his own gain. Rather, he helped them as much as he could. For example, he gave free grain to the poor. He organized public games and festivals. He funded public works projects that created jobs for the unemployed. He also had a talent for propaganda and showmanship. He knew how to use the media and the spectacle to promote himself and his achievements. For example, he wrote a book about his campaigns in Gaul, which was very popular. He also built monuments and statues of himself all over Rome. He hosted lavish banquets and parades in honor of himself and his guests. He knew how to make himself look good and how to make the people feel good about themselves. Finally, what made Caesar successful was his ability to adapt and innovate. He was not afraid to break the rules or to do things differently. He was open to new ideas and new methods. For example, he used new weapons and tactics in battle. He used new technologies and techniques in engineering and architecture. He used new policies and strategies in governance and administration. He was very flexible and pragmatic. He did not cling to old ways of doing things. He did not resist change. Rather, he embraced it and made it work for him. In conclusion, Caesar was a genius leader because he was unstoppable. He had a burning desire for success that consumed him and drove him forward. He was not satisfied with mediocrity. He always aimed for excellence. He was not afraid of challenges. He always welcomed them as opportunities to grow and learn. He was not deterred by failures. He always saw them as lessons and stepping stones to victory. He was relentless and persistent. He never gave up until he achieved his goals. And he did all of these things with style and grace. He was not a nerd or a dork. He was a cool and confident leader who knew how to lead and how to live. That is why Caesar is still admired and celebrated today as one of the greatest leaders of all time. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I will be talking about other great leaders as well, such as Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon Bonaparte, and more. I hope you enjoyed my video. Bye. Part 2. His ruthless cunning and ability to adapt. Now let's talk about some of the other qualities that made Caesar a genius leader. One of them was his cunning and ruthlessness. Caesar was not naive or idealistic. He knew how to play the game of politics. He was not afraid to get dirty. He was very patient and calculating. He did not make rash decisions or take unnecessary risks. He weighed the pros and cons of every move he made and tried to maximize his chances of success. He was also very adaptable and flexible. He was not bound by any ideology or dogma. He was willing to compromise and negotiate with anyone as long as it served his interests. He was also very decisive and bold. When he finally made up his mind to do something, he did it with force and conviction. He did not hesitate or doubt himself. He was also very charming and persuasive. He was able to win over the hearts and minds of the people and the elites. He was able to rally them behind him and get them to support him and his agenda. Caesar was not a saint. He had his faults and weaknesses. He was sometimes arrogant and condescending. He was sometimes reckless and impulsive. He was sometimes cruel and vengeful. But these flaws did not cancel out his strengths and virtues. Rather, they made him more human and relatable. They made him more interesting and compelling as a leader. They also did not prevent him from being a successful and effective leader. Caesar was a brilliant military commander who won many victories for Rome. He was also a skilled politician who won many elections and appointments for himself and his allies. He was also a prolific writer who composed many poems, speeches, and commentaries. He was also a patron of the arts and sciences who supported many poets, philosophers, and scholars. He was a true Renaissance man who excelled in everything he did. Caesar was a legend who lived life on his own terms. He was a rebel who challenged the status quo and pushed the boundaries of what was possible. He was a trailblazer who opened up new frontiers for Rome and for humanity. He was a martyr who sacrificed himself for the greater good of Rome. He was a hero who inspired awe and admiration in his followers and his enemies. Caesar was a man who defied destiny and created his own destiny. He was a man who was born in obscurity but died in glory. He was a man who was hated by the elite, but loved by the people. He was a man who was killed by his friends, but remembered by his foes. Caesar was a man who was more than a man. He was a myth. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about Julius Caesar. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.